Divisional round football, one of the best days of the football year, weekends. And let's talk about it. The Saints get knocked off last week. They were the favorite. Everyone expected the Saints to move on. Now, as we look ahead to this weekend, and I'll start with you, Chris Wessling, the Ravens are the heavy favorite. What do they have to be afraid of?
Well, I think if Lamar Jackson is the most unstoppable weapon in the playoffs, Derrick Henry has to be right behind him along with Patrick Mahomes as the 2 and 3 options. If there's one doubt keeping otherwise confident Ravens fans awake at night, it's Derrick Henry and this 75-yard run that was all him against the Patriots. Let's look at the eye test here. Derrick Henry looking like the dragon from Game of Thrones, just soaring through this defense, taking carnage out in a way that we haven't seen a power back do in the playoffs against Bill Belichick. Nimble feet, fast, explosive through the hole. This guy is the great equalizer. We've seen him do it against the Chiefs in the playoffs. We see him lift his team against the Patriots in the playoffs. He makes teams even.
Don't think I didn't notice that pop culture nug that you dovetailed into the analysis.
Very unlike Wes.
He's young.
Think of the Ravens cornerbacks. Marcus Peters, Jimmy Smith. You think they want to be out on the edge where Derrick Henry does his best work trying to tackle him? That's like me trying to tackle Dan with a bunch of energy coming down the field. It's not happening.
I'd still say the Titans, 14 points on offense, though. I mean, is that going to be enough? You're going to have to find a way to pile up touchdown after touchdown to keep pace.
No, it's not going to be enough.
Right.
Because the one thing, if you want to make a case for the Ravens struggling, 20-day layoff between meaningful action, you have Mark Ingram's injury, but this team they're not going to lay an egg. I feel like if the Titans have any chance in this game, they need to put up 35 points. And here's the problem. The Baltimore defense hasn't given up more than 21 points, their defense, in about 2.5 months.
That's true, and yet I think the Titans are a dangerous opponent for them because of their strengths. Not just Henry getting to the outside, but Ryan Tannehill versus the blitz this year was better than just about any quarterback in the league. The Ravens blitz more than any team. And if nothing else, just to give us a little bit of entertainment coming off 3 weeks off, I do think that they can put up some points and at least keep it fun and late into the game.
The one thing I keep hearing, though, is the Titans are loose, and I think they are. I kind of love Coach Vrabel and everything that they're doing. But who's been loose from wire to wire? The Ravens. Have they ever had a game where they're not just enjoying themselves and dropping an atomic bomb on the opposition? I mean, there's been no disruption.
An assumption by us amongst the football cognoscenti that we assume teams are loose just because they win, and then, they're loose now, but we don't actually
They're loose because they're good, because they're the Ravens.
We talk about Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry, but Lamar Jackson is basically Tannehill as a passer and Henry as a runner. He's two guys in one package.
It's easy to jump on the Ravens caravan right now, but some of us, in this room saw this happen a long time ago. Let's dial back a podcast tape from May 1st, 2018. I like to call this my humble brag concerto.
Oh, my goodness.
All right, when the Ravens win the Super Bowl 2 years from now with Lamar Jackson tearing up the NFL, will the Baltimore franchise be polite and timely enough to hand Ozzie Newsome an honorary ring for what he did during this year's draft? Will they buy Ozzie a fleet of luxury cars, a string of self-driving motorboats, and 200 robot servants after it is deemed that Newsome found the best quarterback in the draft to replace a back-addled, slow as maple syrup oozing out of a tree, Joe Flacco? Let me ask it another way. Did any team do more this offseason to upset the apple cart in their own division?
Leave it to Mark. Mark makes 55 different conflicting predictions, so he finds the one that's right.
Mark does predictions in bulk is Mark's stock and trade, and also only you would remember some prediction from 2 years ago. So you have some mad list somewhere.
No, I had a very helpful someone on Twitter sent it to me because they care about
a little more recent. I wrote the making
analysis.
the leap on Lamar Jackson. Take it over
a year
the
later.
This year.
You're a seer.
Thank you. Wes sees.
I mean, I don't know. Let's also, there's more heavy favorites to talk about in the AFC. What about the Chiefs, Greg? A team that feels like they are locked and loaded for the Texans, but are they vulnerable in your mind?
I don't think they are. They are the heavy favorite I feel the most confident about because it's Andy Reid who's just dialing up whatever matchup he likes. There's no coach, I believe, in the last 20 years that's better at picking out the right matchups, especially with a week to prepare, than Andy Reid. And every matchup's great against this Texans defense. I mean, the Bills aren't going to expose them, but basically every passing game, wide receiver versus cornerback matchup you have, the tight ends versus the linebacker, it's all great.
We sat here a year ago wondering how the Chiefs were going to stop anybody with that leaky secondary of theirs. And now they have Tyrann Mathieu, Honey Badger, who was playing for the Texans last year. And now we wonder the same thing about the Texans secondary that we were wondering about the Chiefs secondary last year. Tyrann Mathieu is the swing factor here.
How about this? Which team has played the worst half of playoff football? It's the Texans.
Yes.
And then then they turn around and played one of the best. I find them totally unpredictable to track or follow. They're not going to hold Deshaun Watson down for 4 quarters, but the Chiefs are just a much more consistent team right now.
It's Bill O'Brien.
Bill
Defend your
O'Brien.
boy.
We did a draft on Tuesday's edition of the Around the NFL podcast where I drafted first. It snaked back to me at 8. I took Andy Reid first because it's time for Andy to have his moment.
Good pick.
And then Bill O'Brien's sitting there at 8, which is a disgrace. Bad job by you guys because Bill O'Brien every year has this team in contention. Give the man some respect. He's not going to get out-coached on Sunday this weekend because he never does.
Says the man who literally predicted the Chiefs to win this game 40-10.
He's been out-coached by the guy in this matchup before.
It's an out-talent situation. He will not be out-coached.
Dude, too many productions and too many predictions.
Yeah, the talent up front when you have the Chiefs defense on the field is a mismatch too. I mean, we'd be talking about Patrick Mahomes as a Super Bowl champion if they had this defense. Steve Spagnuolo going up against a Texans offensive line. They had no idea where pressure was coming from. Watson just put them on their backs, but the line had one of their worst games of the year last week.
I think there's a factor too that Kansas City, I think, is the toughest AFC stadium to play in at this time of year. James Palmer's been reporting from a torrential downpour under an umbrella. I mean, we'll see where we are when this game kicks off.
And you know what else Bill O'Brien has? He's got that dimple right here. And you know what that means? That's good luck.
Nice dimple.
So that's the whole reason you like Bill O'Brien?
I've made my points, and they were all perfect.
Dimple.
I feel like you're a guy that's going to have Aaron Rodgers on lock, great relationship, championships. It feels like something that could happen.
Absolutely.
Rodgers is a living legend, essentially, in Green Bay and one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. Is there any level of intimidation walking into the job when Aaron Rodgers is the guy?
No, more excitement. I mean, I'm very excited.
Hair, is that something? There's a little bit of a disagreement of like who's got the best.
I feel like I've stepped up my hair game since I've become a head coach.
That's good. Greg, you're making Matt uncomfortable. Packers coach Matt LaFleur back at the owners' meetings in March. He was a tough nut to crack, but you know what? He's had a huge amount of success in his debut season. And Wes, I love the eye test so much. I want to bring it back here because let's talk about Aaron Rodgers, a guy that's been a tough nut to crack in the NFL this season. What's going on with that offense in Green Bay?
We've been asking for the last few years, why is he just missing so many throws? He has perfect loft, perfect touch, perfect ball placement, and he just misses the big play. And Greg made the point this week, this has got to be the first time in 3 or 4 decades the Packers have been at disadvantage at quarterback in a playoff matchup.
Since Lynn Dickey was the quarterback.
Russell Wilson's been a more consistent passer, and I think the reason why, when I look at Rodgers, he attempts too many high difficulty throws. He's confident he can make the throws. He reached a point in his career, sort of like cornhole, when you know you can hit the hole every time, you should be pointing the guy on the front of the board, pointing him to death, beating him, making the sensible throw. Rodgers wants to make the high degree difficulty throw, and you'll see it right here. He's got Lazard wide open over the middle of the field, and he goes to Aaron Jones down the sideline, a much tougher throw.
Too boring over the middle.
This time, he bypasses Aaron Jones. He's got wide open with room to run, quick throw. Instead, he ends up threading the needle here. It's a great throw, don't get me wrong, to Allen Lazard, but the percentage of making that throw is way down. And then you'll see here, hey, sometimes he makes the right read and throws a spectacular pass. Throws it to Lazard right here in the end zone. He can do it. He knows he can do it. But should he do it? I think when he attempts a pass, he thinks, in order to be the best quarterback, I've got to make the best throws. Tom Brady has always thought, in order to be the best quarterback, I have to make the right throws. And I think that's where Aaron Rodgers is.
Wes, you've taught me everything about cornhole. And the one thing is it's a 2-on-2 game, typically.
Right.
You don't want any flyboy, glory boy on the other side of the board that's your teammate that's going for the hole every time. Sometimes it's about just racking up points. So I like this idea that
Can't
Rodgers...
go broke taking a profit. I just like the production value we have. Like, are you proud of us, Mom and Dad? Like, NFL Network's now getting us cornhole bags. I love it.
I mean, Wes, cornhole players typically operating with 5 to 6 drinks in them, thinking they own society. Rodgers presumably sober, so why are these things happening?
That's a good question. The thing is, Dan's right. You want to support your teammate. And the thing is, when you're good, you can hit that hole. And Aaron Rodgers can do it. You saw the throw to Lazard there for the touchdown.
Here's the thing. When Russell Wilson has tough throws to make or easy throws to make, he makes them. Rodgers has been missing a lot of those throws this week. And all I'm watching in this game is, can Brian Schottenheimer get out of the way? Let Russell Wilson cook. Don't wait until you're in 3rd and 10 after 2 poor Travis Homer runs to let Russell Wilson go make a play. They looked their best last week when they were in the 2-minute drill, or even when they went 5 wide and they started cooking in up-tempo passing, and that's all Russell Wilson.
I mean, this game is going to be burly, windy, potentially snowy. Russell Wilson 0 for 3 on the road against the Packers in these situations. What's different about this? This is one of the most banged-up teams of the Russell Wilson era.
I just feel like anybody that's overconfident, if you're the Seahawks, you cannot be overconfident going into this game. If you're a fan of the Seahawks, after what we saw last week, I mean, that was like a 4th-string Eagles team that they barely were able to defeat. So I think as Packers, as much question marks as we have about them, this game feels like a toss-up to me.
It is so strange because the narrative isn't, Rodgers doesn't have that much help around him. The Packers are the much more talented team. They're much more talented up front on defense, much more talented up front on offense. Like, it's just
I think you could tell that Matt LaFleur, he respected us when we were peppering him with questions, and you could just feel that respect and that mutual admiration.
Boys, sit up, be respectful for this. Here lies the memory of the Kirk Cousins can't win the big one narrative, which passed away suddenly in the overtime period of Sunday's win over the Saints. We are so sad to see you go. You were a rock of consistency for local columnists. You helped fund countless Caribbean vacations for hot take yackers. And yes, made for glorious discourse on the Around the NFL podcast.
Damn straight.
The narrative is survived by the Kirk Cousins is 0-9 on Monday Night Football narrative and the but yeah, let's see him do it again in San Francisco narrative. Rest in power.
Let's be real here. You're the one driving that Kirk Cousins narrative throughout the season.
What do you mean?
You're the hot take yacker.
No, I wasn't. I merely was part of the army that needed to tell the truth that the guy never had a big win until he went and did it in New Orleans. And I just think Mark Cousins is a guy that you could easily write him off as, oh, now he's going to go get, trounced in San Francisco. Or is this maybe a start of a magic run and we're just getting into it?
Well, I think the common man out there likes what Kirk Cousins is doing, because have we all been doubted at times in life? Well, yes, we have. And
in this room, yes.
Yes, has he answered the bell one game in? Yes, he has.
It took 7 years to get this show.
I like that. But on the limo ride over, I was talking to my driver who was a Niners fan, and he basically said, I'm even doubting the Niners with all of this business at this point. I think because teams that are in the bye round go away for a bit, you kind of forget about them and get all drawn in emotionally by what we saw 6 or 7 days ago. The Niners have played even or better with every single team this year. I just don't see the Vikings coming in and, surprising San Francisco.
I'm that guy that's kind of falling for it, though.
Oh, yeah, you are.
I mean, they have a veteran team. 8 of their defensive starters have played together for 5 years. Like, they're really smart in situations. They're plus 12 in turnover margin. They're great in the red zone. And you look at their team versus a 49ers team that's never been there. And I could just see Kirk Cousins in media night at the Super Bowl, like answering a bunch of questions, like, hey, I finally made it here, right before they lose by 30 points to the Chiefs or the Ravens.
I'd like to see you tell George Kittle you're worried about him in a big game. One of the top 5 players in the NFL, and will be the best player on the field.
That would go well, that conversation.
Yeah, I wouldn't say anything to him. We had him on at the Super Bowl. I'm afraid of that.
He's a pro wrestler, George. He's a guy I'm so excited to see on the playoff stage. Also excited to see Jimmy Garoppolo. It's always been, when you looked at Jimmy Garoppolo, this is when he first got to San Francisco. Hell, even when he's the backup in New England, he felt like he would be playing in a moment like this eventually. And here we are. They are such a fun team to see what comes next.
They are, and yet you look at the Vikings. They are a team, Mark, I think you said throughout the year, you thought they would kind of be an easy team to push around once we got to the playoffs.
Sure, put me on that pedestal.
Right, no, I just mean, but now here...
Greg was waiting all show for that kill shot.
I really was. Now that they got here, don't you feel like they're like a team that it feels like it's their time?
You know what they feel healthy to me. They feel powerful, but I like Kyle Shanahan over anything that they bring. I think Shanahan is the top 5 coach in the league right now.
He learned from Gary Kubiak, who learned from Mike Shanahan. Shanahan's all over this
They finally put it all together in one big game, and Greg's acting like this veteran team has been doing this for years.
Greg's all over the place right now. I mean, You can't call a team of destiny one sentence and then say they're going to lose by 30 in the Super Bowl the next.
Well, I think
Pick
they
a
can get
lane,
through.
pick a narrative.
Thielen and Cook haven't been healthy together since week 6, and
Nor
we
are
saw
they
it last
this
week.
week.
And we don't know if Adam Thielen is going to be 100%, and that's a huge part of this matchup.
Around the NFL is about solving unresolved mysteries. Wherever possible, the actual football players and league figures have participated in recreating the events. What you are about to see is definitely not a news broadcast.
Tonight's case features ordinary people thrust into a vortex of mystery, heartbreak, and intrigue. Each one looking for the vital clue to end a story that thus far has no end. Perhaps you can help. Join me, and maybe you too can solve a mystery.
Those Steely Blues doing overtime.
It's nice
work.
of your grandfather to lend his coat to you there.
A little shout out to the great Robert Stack. Yes, unresolved mysteries, not to be confused with unsolved mysteries. Make that very clear. Let's get into it. Some kind of mysteries hanging out there this weekend that hopefully will have a resolution. Greg, get us going.
I want to know when Kyle Shanahan puts his head to bed, the night before the game.
Head to bed.
Does he wish that Kirk Cousins was his quarterback? In his heart of hearts, would he rather have the guy he wanted all along instead of Jimmy Garoppolo?
Oh, come on. There's a difference in leadership style, too. He's riding with Jimmy G now.
Kirk Cousins knew all the answers to the test in Kyle Shanahan's offense. That was his guy. If Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't just handed to them on a platter, he thought he could win the Super Bowl with Kirk. And now Kirk's going to come in there. Take care of it.
To quote the great Tom York, everything is in its right place. I feel like it's nice. Kirk in Minnesota, and you got Jimmy G in San Francisco.
The one that got away.
Wes, how about you? An unresolved mystery.
We've heard for years about a changing of the guard at quarterback. Is this when we finally send away Brady and Breeze and Rivers and Big Ben, Eli? Well, none of those guys are in the divisional round, and for the first time since 2008, no Brady, no Breeze in this round. I think when you look at this quarterback field, it's the most athletic field of quarterbacks we've ever seen in the divisional round. Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson. We have a new breed. I think we are embarking on the era of the dual threat quarterback, guys who can win from the pocket and do designed runs.
It just feels like it's part of the package now.
Yeah, we
You
had
need
clues
be able
to this
move.
mystery last playoff year, so definitely this time around.
Mark, you're up.
Me, it's Matt LaFleur. Is he a special coach or a jag, just a guy? We were hanging out with Dan's dad, and he called him a little boy with a beard. And I think
what
he's
he
much.
reminded him
I
of,
think he's
yeah.
much more than that. But I think that we need to see what happens in this round of playoffs, because if Matt LaFleur goes and knocks off Pete Carroll and then theoretically drops a bomb on Kyle Shanahan the week later, suddenly what we think about Matt LaFleur is completely transformed.
We want to have guys come on to our show again when we go to the owners' meeting, Mark. We don't want to be burying the guests that were nice enough to come on.
I didn't
like
call
Matt
him
LaFleur.
that. That was Dan's
Yeah,
dad.
we're on TV now. And
Oh,
Keith
well,
Hansen is
we're
going to
big
have
time.
something to say. Come
nice
on, Mark,
fellow.
bad job. All right, here's mine. It's an unresolved mystery. Do Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense have a next gear to their offense? Because as good as they've been this year, and I know a lot of the analytics check out, they have not been the same explosive unit they were during Mahomes' incredible MVP season. Is that next gear exist?
That's the gear right there. They've barely been healthy all year at the same time together. Now you have Damian Williams, the entire receiver core. Absolutely.
They're too good not to find that extra gear.
I know the
Give me a
Ravens
40 burger.
were
Yeah.
revolutionary. If you just had to take one offense for 1 week, I would still take the Chiefs offense over the Ravens
Oh,
offense.
I would take the Ravens in 1 second.
That's a good one. I think I believe in Patrick Mahomes ultimately, because if Patrick Mahomes does hit that next level where he's completely unstoppable, I don't think anybody beats the Chiefs in this
I think
league.
the lesson is the NFL can't mess this up. Get us the Chiefs-Ravens next week. Whatever you have to do, make some phony calls, whatever it is, we want that game.
Chiefs, Ravens, be on your best. Officiating, be on your best. Everybody do your job and set us up beautifully. And check out the Around the NFL podcast on Sunday night, the flagship show. And see us next week at the same time, same place, the Around the NFL broadcast.